The other one is the independent animation. So I was very lucky. I never learned animation anywhere. In fact, I never learned anything at all. I was not born with an art talent, but I loved art, and so I copied. And I was copying the masters. If you're copying the masters, how can you go wrong? So I didn't realize that until 20 years later that I was actually learning from the best guys, and I found a lot of things that you would not know in a normal way. So in our library in Film Negara, where I was working, there were short animation films from Canada, from Germany, and so on. So they were all on 16mm film. So we had a machine, I think they call it a feedback, and you can freeze and so on. So I copied. I'm still having those drawings, 50 years old, and I noticed that if you learn formally, there are things that you will not really know. And you look very strange. For instance, when you do a double take. So I went frame by frame, and I was so amazed that the character goes like this, from this, looks at something, and he turns back, and then realizes that he saw something shocking or whatever. So how does he do it? He goes, frame by frame only you will know this. And in independent animation, you can cheat a lot, but still get the same effect. So those are things that I would probably never have learned. So that's what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to trace my beginnings as a commercial artist. Came to KL at the age of 19, knew nothing at all. I was an assistant to a friend working in Robinson's department store. Hey, come. Okay. Working at Robinson department store, the only department store in Kuala Lumpur at that time, and it was, it had two huge showcases right in front, 22 feet long, and I had to decorate that with the goods that they were having, and I never even knew there was such a thing as video display. So I just show you some still there from that time. But my first commercial job was my father's restaurant in Kedah. So that's me standing there, and that's the signboard that I did at the age of 18, I think. So didn't get paid, and I didn't know the first thing about sign painting. So I applied paint over and over and over, and in a couple of months' time, all the paint cracked. So that was how I realized. Then in Robinson's, I was doing one window displays. All the signages are all hand drawn. So I was there for 4 years, from 1964. And I also had to do all this. I'm wondering, how did I know how to do this? I don't know, maybe because I was always involved at the deep end of the pool, and I have to survive. Then I will have to look for references. And as I was doing all of this, I was also borrowing books from the USI's library and British Council. And for the first time, I knew about fonts. At that time, they called it something else. And I knew about Tesson, Helvetica, and Bodoni, and so on. Never knew this. So, copied. But there was no art director, so I had to get away with it now. So these are, I had to decorate, especially Christmas time, when it will be the biggest festival and the most amount of decoration that I had to do. So for this year, the theme was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And this was 1967, I think, a year before I was doing this for Film Negara. And what was I asked to pay? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And where did I get the book from? They gave me a book of the Disney film. So it was like a premonition that I was going to get into animation in a year's time. So that's me there, and this is. And imagine I had to do snowflakes. The snowflakes are bits of cotton put on nylon string. Can you imagine? You count how many there are. And those branches went to Gombak by the river, got all the branches painted them white, and then all the snow up there is all cotton. And of course the theme is Christmas, and I did all these huge paintings, 95 feet long and 5.5 feet high, all alone.
You are like a cinema poster painter.
Like cinema poster. So there was also a friend he was the chief clerk at the Prime Minister Department in the Bangunan Sultan Abu Samad. So he asked me to do all these huge things for the Prime Minister who was going to give his presentation. So that's me doing it manually with a brush. And these are some of those. And that's a police tattoo. Luminous paint over a black costume which the police wore riding on the motorcycle. And I was moonlighting for the cooperative supermarket in Chowkit Road. So that's me painting. And opposite there was a batik shop. They saw me painting and asked me to paint where painting prices. And I did for Sango Club 8 by 16 feet picture for St. Andrew's Hall. And they wanted French windows and a sea of a castle in Scotland. So I don't know whether I got paid or manager for it. And these are the long paintings that I did, the entire story told in pictures. So at that time in 1966, I was interested in studying ferns. I don't know why. But in school, I loved botany, but I failed my science. Actually, I failed my combined. So to save Penang more embarrassment, I left it, came to KL and worked here, and I was learning a lot of things along the way. So you can see I was studying the ferns and so on, and 30 years later, I really, the knowledge about ferns came into play when I was doing the feature, Malaysia's first animated feature film, Siap Legenda. And if you look at the flora in the film, it's all authentic. And we actually went to the Belum National Forest for 2 days, and we studied the trees and so on. And during Sundays, when I was working at Robinson's, I would go to Gombak 11th mile. The bus stops at 9th mile, then you have to walk 2 kilometers. And then I dragged my friends along. So I was carrying a sketchbook at the time. So these are some of the paintings that I have done. Then later I did line drawings of actual houses in Kedah and Perlis. Most of it is all gone. That's it, sometime over there. And this is where Wisma Yakin stands.
Oh, the shop gone lah.
All gone already, yeah. But this is the only one that looks exactly like that until today. Then overseas, in Sudan and the US, France, Sudan, that's Camden, USA. And this is in Indonesia. As I was coming down the hill, suddenly I saw this like a frame. I stopped and it took about 2-3 hours. So this is what I copied. So I didn't realize that when I was copying, I was developing my own ideas. And the reason why I choose a particular scene is a reason for it. So you have to have a feel for something, especially at location. Sometimes I will sit at a beautiful location, but I can't draw anything. I can't feel anything. So I was beginning to think like an artist and react like an artist. So these are some of the copies that I've done. These are Hudson River Valley pages. That's from a color photo of a swamp in South America. And these are staged structures. This was my real first commercial job. So now I was in Film Negara, 1968. And along came this guy who wanted a cinema slide. So he said, can do what? So I cross-figure, I said, can. Never did it before. So he gave me a photograph of a bottle which I touched up, and everything else was hand-drawn. So I think I got 40 ringgit for it. So my work actually was film titles, all hand-drawn, and diagrams and maps and so on. So when we do titles for film, we do it on paper with pencil, then we put a plastic on top, cellulose acetate, we draw the outline on top, then turn it the other way around and paint, exactly like how we would do animated. So 1972, my first animation job. So I was asked, can you or not? Cross-figure again, can. So out came my first short animated film, and what was the scene at the beginning? It was for Christmas, an animated trailer for Christmas 1972. So I came up with the storyboard, saw the big boss, and he approved it. The opening was the star twinkling, and then the three kings going on the camel. So I had never animated camels walking, let alone men walking. So coincidentally, at that time, in the Straits Times, there was advertisement camel cigarettes, and they had a camel in silhouette walking. So I copied that, then crawled on the floor, and imagined that's how a camel would walk. And it happened. Now, star twinkling. The film language, if you have stars in your film, it means your story is about the destiny of the character, or some destiny. So in Lion King, there are scenes of, 3 scenes of stars in the sky, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. At the beginning, the father is telling Simba, those are the souls of great kings looking down upon earth, and one day we will also be up there. Then in the middle, Timon, Pumbaa and Simba are lying on the grass looking at the stars in the sky. And then he feels very uneasy because they are all laughing. Then at the end, Rafiki takes Simba into the underworld to see the, the soul of the father, because only the father can convince him. So again we see stars. Okay? So very significantly, we can see in the Lion King that the film is about the destiny of Simba. He cannot run away from his destiny. So stars means your film is about destiny. So this was as if my destiny that I would be known for animation, even though I've gone into directing and writing and so on. So art reflects life, life reflects art. So before I got into narrative shots, I was doing all these short public service advertisements and copying a lot of the techniques in the National Film Board of Canada film lens. So this one was marker pen on white paper. So there's a trick for having another overlay. And this one took me a year to do because it was the first time I had done lip sync animation. I had never done it before. So the editors told me, we can easily do it on the steam bag. But every time you start and stop, there is a jerk and a pull. So the lip sync goes out. So later I'm going to show you a still where I myself was marking physically on film on a machine called the synchronizer. And this one was for keeping the toilet clean. And this one, we actually made two. One was for ESSO. Then when it became very popular, all the other gas companies got jealous. So came and we had to paint a neutral color, which was the second one. The first one was in 1981, second one was in 1987, and it was also used in Brunei. So 1983, we had a new minister, a new director general, and of course they wanted to show something new. So they saw the first animated film made beginning in 1961, finally completed in 1978, made by one man. He was a set designer. He wasn't interested in animation, but he was the only one who knew a little bit of animation. So he was asked to do. It took him about 18 years to finally completed. So I was watching, and I said, "Oh my God, I can never ever do this." Finally ended up doing the second one, and there was Sangkacil and Monyet, which until today is popularly re-screened on YouTube. There was one comment, we are fed up with Open and Deepen and Go Boy Boy. Why don't they make something like this anymore? Now, it was a catchy dialogue that people liked, and I was told that in school, the kids were all mouthing that kind of dialogue. And this is the first film that had film language. So if you remember, at the beginning, here, another example of the film language. In a film, you watch any film, if there's a light coming from above or from the window falling upon a person, it means that person is either spiritual or morally inclined or very ethical. That's why you have that light, not just because it's beautiful. And then, at the very beginning, I introduced the monkey leaping from tree to tree. His feet don't touch the ground. That means he is in fantasy land as compared to these two characters. Then there's a scene where the monkey does not listen and eats the chili. Then he runs, jumps onto two trees, and the two trees are like this. Visually it says, "You are wrong." So that's how you speak using visuals. Unfortunately, 95% of our directors don't understand this thing, which is very, very basic. So we have film grammar, then you have film language. Film grammar is long shot, medium shot, close up, high level, above high level, and so on. That's film grammar. But when you arrange your scenes in a certain manner, the film language develops from there. And then the hidden meaning can be inserted there. So this is in my book. Please buy and make me rich. While we were doing Sangkacil dan Monyet, the minister was breathing down my neck. He thought we had done the first one. So I couldn't very well tell him, "Sorry sir, I don't know because I have not done this animation before." So I had just been promoted to be the head. I can't tell him, "Oh, I don't know how to do it." So I cross figure again, "Yes, I can do it." Of course my staff kept still because nobody knew animation. Then while we were doing it was taking time. So I said, "Okay, let's have another group of people. I'm going to direct everybody. We'll make 2.5 minutes long shots. And it can be cut out and so on so that we can get it out fast." Then we came up with the head, the tortoise, the lady lion, and the clever crow. He was from Aesop's Fable. Then I designed, so because I had done the Sangkacil, I was asked by one agency, advertising agency, to design, or rather redesign the something that had been done. Who's this? This here, my grandkid. And it was the coin box. And this actually is from the LRT card. So, you know, the rights belongs to the agency, so I didn't get it. Now, Firefly snitched my dialogue and my character. So, you know whether they paid or not. So, in between, I was interested in directing now. So I became a director for 1 year, directing documentaries, and this one, very, very strangely, I was with an RTM crew. I was going to take still photos for one of the trailers that we were going to make. Then the director from RTM called the cameraman and said, sorry, I can't come, I'm sick. So there was the OCPD, there were 2 lorries of policemen and dogs and so on. They had to shoot a scene where they had cornered the gangster. So of course the cameraman shivers in his pants. So he asked me, hey direct, no problem. So I went to the police OCPD, what do you have to do first, then what do you do, and directed it and came out on TV. So you see, never turn down any job, huh? Even if you have never done it before. Otherwise you will never get a chance to do it. So then I directed the Hari Kebangsaan film. This was the Hasil dari Rotan, my first documentary, won jury award for best documentary in the country. And that's shooting in Kuala Selangor. That's high up on Gombak, one of the Gombak areas. So this is my first commercial. So I was moonlighting, and I came for the meeting. I was keeping very, very quiet. So there was Farida Marikan there, and the director from Europe, Peter Sims, and so on. Everybody turned and looked at me because I was too quiet. They said, how, can do, cross finger again. Yes, no problem. Then the cameraman asked me, because they had to shoot the live action first, then I had to put the animation on top. Normally, you don't move the camera. Okay, in those days. Because if you do, you are going to be in trouble. So they had to shoot with a special camera. You know, in film, you have sprocket holes. The claw pulls the, what do you call it? Good. The film down, then comes out, goes up, and pulls the next one like that. Okay? But for this kind of job, they also have 2 registration pins that when the film is being pulled down, the pins go in and hold every frame steady. I'm sure you have seen sometimes in film where the title appears to be moving. Isn't it? It's not the title that's moving. It's the background plate that is moving. Okay, so the cameraman asked me, do you want positive film with positive perforation, or do you want positive film with negative perforation? I was saying, what the heck is this? Never heard of it in my life. So I just crossed my finger again. Give me positive with negative perforation. When I went back to film Negara to the laboratory, I said, what the heck is this? So I was right actually. Okay, so now, the camera is moving without this man when he hears his voice. So, how do I get this fellow to appear as if he's standing on the billiard table? So I had to animate him moving into frame, even though he's standing, he's static. So, I had to mark one edge of the table where it was sharp. And if it takes about, let's say, a 2-second move, then I had to trace that position of the table 48 times, frame by frame. Now, of course, everybody just close their eyes and do it. Then after that, I did Sugus, was my last one. The first one was for Indonesia. Then they liked it so much, they reused it for Malaysia, and I got paid for it without doing any work. Then they wanted to do for Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Thailand. So I had to reanimate the... Now this is not 3D, it's 2D. I did all the hand-drawn animation, and after it was scanned, it was painted frame by frame by Virginia Kennedy. She later became a director, Australian. She was so good because frame by frame she matched the highlights and so on. But I had to give all the indications. It was very, very tedious. It was one of my biggest jobs. Those days, I'm like the craftsman of old. They wanted a 2D heart turning in 3D. So what do? I take plasticine, make a heart, then put a rod through it, look at it like this, turn, draw, turn, draw, turn, draw. That's how we do it. So I did in-camera visual effects. This means we don't have to go to the lab and get it done. It's all done in camera. So you have to understand what it is. You have to understand the workings of the animation camera, otherwise you cannot be a graphic designer for film or an animator. This is an optical printer. In those days, after you have shot live, you bring to the projector here, you project it, and there's a camera that picks it up. Oh, I think it's the other way around. Projector, the camera picks it up, then you can do all the effects. For Star Wars, they had a quadruple head optical printer so that they do not lose quality. It's all great to you, I know. This is the synchronizer I was telling you about. So it's a very heavy machine which the editor uses for putting the film and the soundtrack, which is on tape, and matching it perfectly. It matches frame by frame, no mistakes at all. So what I do is I put the film through it, and then I listen to the this one. Wait a minute, why am I had a tape. I move it by hand like this, up, down, listen to the dialogue. Then I write with the special pen on top of the tape with the R, E, O happening. That's how we used to do it. Mom, you did that? Yeah. You also did? I was the first animator in Malaysia to be trained on computers. This was 1987 in Singapore. And there was also a 2D that was in development. It was called DAN, D-A-N, Digital Animation. So here I am doing a 3D model, and later I did a chair, and then I didn't know how the chair went into the ground. So this was the first ever computer-assisted animation using that 2D software. And after that they discontinued it, I don't know why. And this was the second one, which you saw just now. The voice is the voice of Jin Borat. Oh, I must tell you about this. Two versions, 15 seconds, English and Malay. You know how much I charge for each one? 11,000 ringgit.
Wow.
Today, 1,100 also, they think twice to give you. So, what happened was, I only had to do one version. So this computer software, I mean, at that time, nobody knew what it could do. I discovered that we didn't have to redraw or rescan. Just note down and reprogram it using the exposition that they have. So I didn't tell the agency, of course. Then went higher level. Now animation for feature films. So 1989, I did the animation. We finished it in 1990. So that's the Mandrak character created by Imuda, our very famous cartoonist. He was also acting in the film. That's him. This is at my table at home. I still remember they never paid me for it. And I didn't charge for this because this was my idea. I said, at the end, the cartoonist character must meet the cartoonist. So I didn't charge for the animation. I said, just pay for the material. It was a big mistake. No contract signed. Today, he's re-screening on TV, making money. So what Imuda is holding actually is a plasticine model of a character. Why? Because I wanted the eye contact. Okay, otherwise you didn't know exactly where he's watching. And by the side here, I think I put a Mickey Mouse doll. Then I directed Malaysia's first animated feature film. And